3 months go by, and bank robbers, car thieves, and petty crimes have been webbed up all over the place, from the masked vigilante known as Spider-Man. Peter starts swinging through the air and finally arrives at school, late as usual. He makes his way to his bio class. "Late again, Mr. Parker. Now just because you're my top student doesn't mean you can be late," says his teacher. "Sorry, sir, it won't happen again, I promise," says Peter. After class, the teacher asks Peter to wait behind. He tells him that his fellow friend Otto Octavius is offering an internship to come and work at his laboratory. The teacher said that he would pick his top student, and was hoping that Peter would be interested in taking the job. Peter thinks that this job would be a great way to make money, so he can help May with the mortgage on the house. He accepts the job and heads to the lab after school. Peter arrives at the lab late because he had to stop a crime. Peter introduces himself to Otto. Peter asks how much the internship pays. Otto chuckles. "I think maybe when you're older, Mr. Parker. Right now you're just a teenager." He shows him the new experiment he's working on. Otto is experimenting on genetically altered eels so that he can make clean energy and use them as a power source. Otto had to hire an electrician, Max Dillon, so that Max could stop the power from going out because of the eel's electrical energy would black out the entire lab. 2 hours later goes by and Peter helps Otto with the experiment. He gets a call from May saying that he needs to get home ASAP. He tells May that he needs to first tutor Harry, then he will head home as soon as possible. He starts swinging his way to Harry's penthouse. Peter starts telling Harry about the lab, and Norman overhears them talking about it. Norman asks if Harry was also offered the job. Before Harry could answer, Peter jumps in and says that it's not a big deal. "On the contrary, it's a very big deal," says Norman. Peter says that Harry and him need to start tutoring. He jumps in and says this because he knows how Norman can be about this whole, how he's smarter than Harry and all that, basically. Peter's phone starts vibrating, and his crime scanner, just a little note, he added parts from the police radio he took from the squad car, 3 months ago, to his phone. So it goes off, and there's a suspected weapons trafficking in an abandoned warehouse. He tells Harry that he needs to run off quickly, and that he'll be back soon. Peter leaves Harry's penthouse, runs down an alleyway, changes into his costume, and swings to the scene. Spider arrives at the crime. Here's one of the thugs saying, "Let's make this quick. We don't want that Spidey freak to catch us." Spidey clears his throat and says, "Well, that's not very nice, don't you think?" Spidey fights the thugs and says some quips while he does it. He recognizes one of the thugs' voices and takes off both of their masks. He realizes that the same thugs he busted last week, Aaron Davis and Herman Schultz. He starts laughing and calling them amateurs. At this point, Peter starts getting really, really cocky because for the last 3 months he's been stopping crimes all over, and it's almost as if he's invincible. As Peter swings through the city, a newspaper blows into his face, and because now that he can't see anything, he smashes into a building. Now, Peter isn't also as experienced as he is. He's only been Spider-Man for 3 months, so he's not as experienced to the whole web swinging thing just yet. He leans against the building and looks at the newspaper. The Daily Bugle is hiring a photographer to take pictures of Spider-Man. Spider-Man leaps off the building and heads to the Bugle. Meanwhile, at Otto's lab, Max is fixing the power, and his jaw lands on the control pad. He reaches for it, but when Max grabs the jaw, an electrical shock pushes Max into the eel tank. The tank then breaks. The eels are released and end up biting Max. An electrical surge starts going through Max. He starts going into a seizure, and the lights around the lab all just fuse and burst. Meanwhile, at the Bugle, Peter sneaks into one of the windows, leading into a broom closet. He quickly changes out of his costume, puts back on his civilian clothes, and walks out of the closet. He goes to the receptionist, who happens to be Betty Brandt, and asks if he can speak to her editor-in-chief. She says that unless he has an appointment, she can't let him in. He says that he has pictures of Spider-Man that his editor-in-chief might be interested in. The editor-in-chief, who happens to be J. Jonah Jameson, kicks the guy out of his office. He then quickly slips into the office while the door is open. He introduces himself to Jameson and asks if he would hire him to take pictures of Spider-Man. Jameson says, "Listen, kid, I don't have time to hire amateurs. Now get out of my office," and he kicks Peter out. Peter says he'll just leave his photos on the table then. Peter leaves the bureau, and just as he's about to walk out, Betty Brand comes running down and tells him to wait. She tells him that Jameson would like to hire him, so he better get back up there. Jameson says, "So let's get to business, kid. Your pictures are all crap, especially this one, looking at Robbie Robertson, the second in command." He then says to Robbie, "Here's your page 1," and hands him one of Peter's pictures. Now you're just a freelance, so $300 for each time we get a picture from you. That's the usual pay, and you email them to Robbie. Go talk to him, and then leave. "Thank you, Mr. Jameson. I appreciate it. You will get some more pictures soon," says Peter, and he leaves. Peter goes to Robbie. Robbie tells Peter that he should really invest in getting a new camera, but his pictures aren't half bad. Back at Otto's lab, Max wakes up and sees that he has a mechanical jacket to contain him. He then freaks out, shouting, and electricity goes everywhere. Otto gets up and tries to calm him down. He tries to explain to Max what happened and says that he made him a jacket to contain his electrical energy. Otto tells him that the jacket is only temporary until he can find a cure. Max starts to feel electricity coursing through his veins, and it's as if electric energy is calling him. He starts heading for the door, and Otto tells Max that it isn't a good idea to go anywhere, and it's the best thing that he should stay at the lab. Max then says in anger, "Stay here? The lab is the reason I'm here," and blasts Otto with an electrical charge, sending him flying into a wall. Max starts making his way to Times Square to get more electricity. Max gets to Times Square and reaches underneath a gate to get the power lines from the bottom. As he holds it, he feels more powerful and he wants more of it. As Peter starts leaving the bugle, his spiders start going off, warning of danger. He then heads to Times Square, because that's where it's leading him to. We're then introduced to Captain George Stacy and Lieutenant Yuri Watanabe, arriving at Times Square with other cops. Spider-Man arrives and greets Captain Stacy and Yuri. Captain Stacy says that they can handle this and he should leave. Now, the cops aren't very fond of Spider-Man, and they're very neutral towards him. Spider-Man says in a cocky way, "Yeah, sure." Again, Peter is very cocky at this point. Again, because all of the criminals he stopped, and he feels like he's invincible, like he can do anything. He jumps over and starts dissing Max and calling him names, and Max starts getting angry and starts producing more electricity and fires electricity at Spider-Man. Spider-Man dodges his attack and shoots a web at him. But the electricity hits back and breaks Spider-Man's one web shooter and sends him flying into one of the police barricades. Max shouts at SM, "I'm not your common thug, Spider-Man. I'm more than that." The police start opening fire at Max, but Max forms an electrical shield around him that destroys the bullets. Max starts shooting electricity everywhere, almost hurting civilians. Spider-Man gets up slowly and is realizing what's happening. One police officer starts running at Max and shooting at him. Spider-Man sees this and shoots a web to pull the officer away, but his web shooter is broken. Max then blasts electricity at the police officer and kills him. Max realizes what he has done and leaves. Spider-Man screams out loud, shouting in anger, "No!" Captain Stacy shouts at Spider-Man and tells him that it's all his fault, and if he wasn't here, this wouldn't have happened. Spider-Man swings away and gets home. When Peter gets in his room, he takes off his mask and throws it on the ground. He thinks about how he never asked for the powers, and now because of him, a police officer is dead. He then starts breaking down crying. He goes downstairs to see if Aunt May is awake. Aunt May is waiting for him and gives him a lecture on the fact that he needs to be home at a certain time and that he is grounded. She notices that he's been crying and she asks what is the matter. He tells her that he's been trying so hard and wanting to make Ben proud. But it's so hard. She gives him a hug and tells him that Ben is proud of him no matter what, but he shouldn't give up on that. Now, at this point, Peter has lost some hope at this point. He's not sure if he wants to be Spider-Man anymore. But May's giving him a little hope, just a little tiny hope, of just keep on being Spider-Man. Just a little bit. She doesn't know yet. I don't know. I don't know if she knows yet. I don't know. We cut to Max hiding out in a warehouse. He can't believe what he's done. He killed a police officer. Max starts to hear a voice. Tells him that he needs more power to break the jacket, that he's stabilizing his powers, so he can become pure energy. There's no turning back now after everything he's done. There's nothing else he can do. The next day, Peter arrives at school and Harry says nothing to him. Peter ditched him yesterday, and because of this, Harry also failed his calculus test. This also shows one of the consequences of being Spider-Man is that he wasn't there for his best friend. Peter arrives at Otto's lab and finds Otto on the ground. Otto tells Peter what happened, and Peter realizes that Max was the criminal he attacked. Peter asks if there's anything that they can do to stop and kill Max. Otto tells him that there's no way to kill Max, and that's why he made the jacket to contain him. However, if Max removes the jacket, there's no way of containing him. Peter then realized what he needs to do. He takes Otto to the hospital and switches into his costume and tries searching for Max. He realizes that if he can't stop Max, he at least has to try. Max is at the city's power plant, which is close to the shore, and he starts draining the power from the plant, and New York goes in complete blackout. We cut back to Spider-Man climbing and trying to see if he can find Max. He sees all of New York, but there is a light only coming from one place, and that's the power plant. He then web swings as fast as he can, working with only one web shooter, so he can get to the power plant. Max has absorbed so much power that the jacket that was containing him now is broken, and now he has access to his full power. Max can't be stopped at this point. He keeps absorbing more and more electricity. Spider arrives at the power plant and lands on the ground just below Max. Spider-Man then shouts, "Max!" Max looks at Peter, says in anger, "You! What are you doing here?" Spider-Man tells Max that he knows what happened to him, and that he's sorry that he attacked him. Spider-Man says that he wants to make things right, and that Max should come with him, so that they can get him help. Max says in anger that he doesn't want Spider-Man's help. He is more powerful. He then blasts electricity at Spider-Man, but Spider-Man dodges it. Spider-Man doesn't want to hurt him at this point. But if he doesn't stop Max, the entire city will be in complete darkness. Spider-Man yells, "Max, please stop. I don't want to hurt you." Max is growing angrier and angrier and shouts, "That's not my name anymore. I am Electro!" and shoots Spider-Man with even more electricity, and it hits Spider-Man. Spider-Man now on the ground. His suit is badly damaged, working with only one web shooter at the time, and can barely get up. Spider-Man thinks to himself that he can't give up. He has to keep fighting for his city. He gets up slowly and stands up. This scene is very triumphant, by the way. Triumphant. Electro looks at him, and Spider-Man says that he is Spider-Man. They have a very choreographed CGI fight scene. Spider-Man then lands in a water tank that leads to the ocean. He remembers that Electro has a temper and starts taunting him. Electro shoots electricity at Spider-Man, but Spider-Man dodges and the water is released onto Electro and he falls back on the ground, finally defeated. Captain Stacy and Detective Watanabe show up to kill Electro. Captain Stacy says to Spider-Man that maybe he was wrong about him and shakes his hand. He is looking forward to working with Spider-Man in the future. The next day, Peter's at his locker, and Liz comes up to him and asks if he's coming with her and Flash to the cafe with them. Just a little small detail, after Uncle Ben died, Flash told Peter how sorry he was about bullying him, and that he knows what it's like to lose a father, because Flash lost his dad while fighting in the army. And because of this, Flash and Peter become friends. Peter then sees Harry at the other end of the hall and says to Liz that he'll meet them there. Peter goes up to Harry. Harry then asks why he isn't going to hang out with his new friends. Peter says that he is, but he isn't going without his best friend. They do a little bro handshake, and the movie ends with Spider-Man swinging into New York City in a triumphant tone. As my favorite part, my second favorite part actually, is the post-credit scene, because, I know, there's always a one favorite part, man. The two post-credit scenes. So the first one is, we see Norman Osborn talking to a man on the computer known as the Big Man. The Big Man says to Norman that his boss wants more like a ledger to stop Spider-Man, who has been causing trouble for them. Norman says, with a creepy smile, that Big Man shouldn't worry. He already has candidates. Now we have the second post-credit scene. We see Peter in his bedroom working on sewing back his suit and fixing his web shooter. He then hears noises coming from his window. He sees that someone is moving into the house next to him. He goes downstairs to see who his new neighbors are, and he sees the most beautiful girl ever in the world. He goes up to her and introduces himself. She introduces herself as Mary Jane Watson. He thinks to himself that he is at the jackpot. Okay, right now this video has been super long. I'm so sorry, but if you guys did stay to the end, you guys are literally the best subscribers in the entire world. And if you did stay to the end, I thank you guys so much. And if you did stay to the end, comment down below your favorite version of Spider-Man. Or if you don't have a favorite version of Spider-Man, comment down your favorite superhero. Don't scratch that. If you stay to the end, comment down your favorite superhero. And yeah. But there's little things I want to discuss. I haven't discussed who I casted yet. So this is when I'll be saying it now. Okay. So the director for this, I decided to either pick Rian Johnson, Sam Raimi, of course. Or Sam Raimi or Rian Johnson. Or Jon Favreau. So Rian Johnson, he has been criticized for writing The Last Jedi. But his cinematography is amazing. He also wrote Knives Out. Knives Out is literally one of the best movies out there. It's literally one of the best movies. It's well written. It is so amazing. Sam Raimi, on the other hand, I didn't want to use Sam Raimi because if you ever make Spider-Man reboot, everyone's like, oh, pick Sam Raimi because Sam Raimi directed the Spider-Man trilogy, the Raimi trilogy. I didn't want to use him because I wanted to use someone different, but now thinking about it, I think Sam Raimi would be a good fit. And Jon Favreau directed the first Iron Man movie. I think the first two Iron Man movie, I'm not sure. And he also directed a bit of The Mandalorian, and I think Jon Favreau can really direct it. So either those three, it's either Rian Johnson, Sam Raimi, or Jon Favreau. Now the cast. Let's go. Okay. I'm leaving Spider-Man for last because he's the best. So for Lecho, we have Dave Franco. A reason I picked him is because, if you guys didn't know, I took a lot of points from Spectacular Spider-Man, the Spider-Man PS4. If you guys did know, I kind of just combined them a little bit. And the reason I'm picking Dave Franco is, in Spider-Man PS4, when you go up against a Lecho, he reminds me a lot of Dave Franco, and I thought that he could really work as a role. I picked Clancy Brown as Captain Stacy, mostly because Clancy Brown did voice Captain Stacy in Spectacular Spider-Man. And he also played a cop in this one movie, The Shawshank Redemption. It's a good movie. I think you guys should watch it. Harry Osborn, Timothy Campbell, whatever. He looks like Harry Osborn, go with it. Now, Uncle Ben, everyone says Tom Hanks, either Tom Hanks or Steve, whatever, the other guy, I forgot his name, the guy from The Office. He also voices Gru in Despicable Me. But the person I would choose to be Uncle Ben, or people say also use Toby, but I don't think Toby fits the role well. The person I would use for Uncle Ben is Bruce Campbell. I think Bruce Campbell suits Uncle Ben so well. That's who I'd use as Uncle Ben. On May, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Nancy Lenara. Flash Thompson, I want to use Jason Norman. And what you're going to notice is the characters that I picked for the high schoolers and for Spider-Man, the characters are younger. They're younger than Tom Holland and everyone in the MCU. I'm sorry about that, but they're all a bit younger. But I think they could really do the roles well. So, yeah, Jason Norman as Flash Thompson. Olivia Rodrigo as Liz Allen. Nathaniel Portman, I don't know how to pronounce his name right, as Rand Robertson. Tom Cavanaugh as Norman Osborn. And I'm picking Tom Cavanaugh because if you've not seen the Flash TV show, Tom Cavanaugh does Reverse Flash so well. He's so good. He's so menacing. And I think he captures Norman's persona. If I make Norman, you know who. I'm not going to say. If you do know what I'm talking about, I might make Norman go down that route. I'm thinking about it. Otto Octavius, I pick Michael Shannon because I think Michael Shannon could really deliver the role as Otto Octavius. J. Jonah Jameson, obviously I'm going to pick with J.K. Simmons. There's no one else can beat J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons, hands down, is going to be Jameson. Robbie Robertson, Jameson's second in command, I would pick Lawrence Fishburne. I think Lawrence Fishburne can capture his role really well. MJ. Now, I'm not going to say who else is going to love this role, but as MJ, I'd pick Isabella Massett or Isabella Mono. I can't pronounce her last name right. Isabella Massett. Basically Dora the Explorer, live action Dora. Okay, I picked her, also unbiased because she's my celebrity crush, but I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, Isabella Massett. I want her to play MJ. And finally, Peter Parker, the one and only. I pick David Mazouz. Now, if you don't know who he is, David Mazouz played young Bruce Wayne in Gotham. I picked him mostly because he played Bruce Wayne in Gotham, because he was able to capture a young version of Batman. He basically played a superhero, almost like a little bit, and I think he could capture being Spider-Man. I know the roles are a bit younger, except for the old people, but yeah, I think it's a good cast list. Let me know your thoughts, guys. And the other thing I want to talk about is, again, the video is long because, oh fuck, I've been writing the script for about 2 months now, since March. And there's so much shit that I had to change, sorry, excuse my language. At one point, I had Gwen into the entire story, but I took her out because I thought she was unnecessary. I didn't want to also as another love interest, because if you guys didn't know, I was kind of hinting Liz and Peter's relationship. And now that I introduced MJ, so I didn't want too many love interests. Yeah, and it took me a while to write the script also. But I'm so sorry, this took forever, and this video is long as hell. But then again, if you stay till the end, comment down below your favorite superhero right now. And drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Love you guys. Oh, and also, if you guys want me to do a sequel, I already mentioned, I am thinking of making 2 trilogies even, so that's 5 other scripts. At least give me the 10 likes, or comment down below that you want me to make a sequel. That's all I have to say. Peace. Love you guys.